What if one of America's most beloved comfort foods has been misunderstood for decades? What if the creamy bowl of mac and cheese sitting on your table tonight isn't just comfort food, but a food that contains nutrients your brain, muscles, bones, and even your immune system desperately need? Now, before you click away, we're not saying mac and cheese is some magical superfood, and we're definitely not saying you should eat giant portions every day. But what if the story you've heard your entire life is incomplete? Because hidden beneath the reputation of being a guilty pleasure, there's a fascinating nutritional story that most people never hear.
A story involving protein, calcium, vitamins, gut satisfaction, and even something scientists call food happiness. By the end of this video, you'll discover why some nutrition experts are beginning to rethink certain comfort foods, how cheese may provide surprising nutrients many Americans don't get enough of, the biggest mistake people make when preparing mac and cheese, and how a few simple changes can transform this classic dish into something significantly more balanced. But first, let's travel back hundreds of years, because the origins of mac and cheese are far more fascinating than most people realize.
And they might completely change the way you look at this iconic meal. Few foods trigger nostalgia quite like mac and cheese. For some people, it's childhood. For others, it's family gatherings. For many Americans, it's comfort in a bowl. And that's exactly why this food is so interesting. Because when researchers study eating habits, they often discover something surprising. Food isn't only about nutrients. It's also about emotions, tradition, memory, connection. The healthiest lifestyle isn't necessarily the one filled with perfect foods. It's often the one people can actually enjoy and maintain. And mac and cheese sits right at the center of that conversation.
Today, we're going beyond the stereotypes. We're separating myths from reality. And we're uncovering what science actually says about the ingredients that make this famous dish so irresistible. The answers may surprise you.
Most people assume mac and cheese is a modern American invention, but its roots stretch back centuries. Long before supermarkets, long before boxed dinners, long before television commercials, people were already combining pasta and cheese. Historical records suggest versions of this dish existed in Europe as early as the Middle Ages. Back then, cheese wasn't merely a flavor enhancer, it was an important source of nutrition. Families valued cheese because it was rich in energy and could be stored for extended periods. Over time, the combination of pasta and cheese spread through different cultures. Eventually, it arrived in America.
And something remarkable happened. The dish evolved into one of the most recognizable comfort foods in the nation. But here's what's fascinating. Despite its reputation today, the original appeal wasn't indulgence, it was practicality. People recognized that combining grains and dairy created a filling, satisfying meal. And satisfaction is something modern nutrition researchers are paying increasing attention to. Because when people feel satisfied after eating, they're often less likely to continue searching for snacks. Interesting, isn't it? But the history is only the beginning, because the real story starts when we look inside the ingredients themselves.
And that's where things get truly surprising. Let's start with something many people overlook: protein. When most Americans think of protein, they think of steak, chicken, eggs, maybe protein shakes. But cheese contributes protein too. And protein becomes increasingly important as we age. Why? Because our bodies naturally lose muscle over time. Researchers often refer to this process as age-related muscle decline. Maintaining adequate protein intake may help support healthy muscles and daily function. And that's important whether you're 25, 45, or 75. Now, is mac and cheese a protein powerhouse? Not necessarily.
But depending on the ingredients and portion size, it can contribute meaningful protein to a meal. Especially when paired with foods like grilled chicken, beans, peas, or Greek yogurt-based sauces. This is where many people make a mistake. They view foods either good or bad, but nutrition rarely works that way. The better question is, how can we make a meal more balanced? And mac and cheese offers plenty of opportunities to do exactly that. But protein is only the beginning, because the next nutrient hidden inside cheese plays a crucial role in something millions of Americans worry about every year: bone health.
And what researchers have discovered may surprise you.
Imagine reaching your 70s, still enjoying long walks, traveling, playing with grandchildren, and remaining physically independent. One factor that can influence that future is bone health. And calcium remains one of the most recognized nutrients involved in maintaining healthy bones. Cheese naturally contains calcium. And for many Americans, dairy products remain a major dietary source of this important mineral. What's interesting is that bone health isn't something we start caring about when we're older. It's something we build throughout life. Think of it like a retirement account. Small deposits today can matter years down the road.
Of course, calcium isn't the entire story. Physical activity matters. Vitamin D matters. Overall nutrition matters. But calcium remains an important piece of the puzzle. And that's one reason dairy-containing foods continue to hold a place in many healthy eating patterns. But here's where things become even more intriguing, because the same cheese that supports bones may also contain nutrients involved in brain function. And in the next section, we'll explore the surprising connection between comfort food, nutrients, and the human brain. What if one of the biggest reasons people crave comfort foods isn't weakness, but biology? Think about it. Have you ever had a stressful day, felt mentally exhausted, and suddenly wanted something warm, creamy, and familiar? You're not alone. Scientists have long studied the connection between food and the brain. And while no food can magically boost intelligence, certain nutrients play important roles in supporting normal brain function. Cheese contains nutrients such as protein, calcium, phosphorus, and vitamin B12. Vitamin B12 is particularly interesting because it helps support normal nervous system function. And many adults become increasingly aware of B12 as they age. But there's another fascinating layer to this story. Researchers have found that familiar foods can trigger positive emotional memories. A favorite meal from childhood, a family gathering, a holiday dinner, all can activate powerful emotional associations. And that's important, because wellness isn't only physical, it's emotional too. The healthiest lifestyle isn't simply about eating nutrients, it's about creating sustainable habits that bring both nourishment and enjoyment. But wait until you hear what happens when we look at energy levels, because one common myth about comfort food may be completely backwards. Many people believe energy comes only from caffeine, or energy drinks, or supplements. But real energy begins with food, and more importantly, with satisfaction. Here's something fascinating. When meals contain a balance of carbohydrates, protein, and fat, they often feel more satisfying. Mac and cheese naturally combines carbohydrates from pasta with protein and fat from cheese. Now, balance matters. Portion size matters. Overall diet matters. But the combination itself explains why the dish can feel deeply satisfying. And satisfaction has hidden benefits. Because when people constantly feel deprived, they often struggle to maintain healthy eating habits. In contrast, meals that feel enjoyable may help people stay consistent with healthier lifestyles over the long term. That's a powerful lesson. Sometimes wellness isn't about perfection. It's about sustainability, and sustainability often wins. But there's another nutrient-packed area we haven't discussed yet: your immune system. And surprisingly, the ingredients inside mac and cheese have a role there too. When people think about immunity, they often think about vitamin C, or supplements, or exotic superfoods. But the immune system depends on a much bigger picture. Your body requires adequate protein, various vitamins, minerals, sleep, movement, and overall nutrition.
Cheese contributes several nutrients that support normal body function. Protein itself is essential for many processes throughout the body, including processes related to immune health. And while no single food can boost immunity overnight, consistent nutrition matters a lot. Think of your immune system like a team. No single player wins the game. Success comes from everyone doing their job, and food is part of that team. This is one reason many nutrition experts emphasize dietary patterns instead of miracle foods. Which leads us to a surprising question. Could comfort foods actually fit into a healthy lifestyle?
The answer may challenge everything you've been told. Let's talk about something rarely discussed in nutrition: joy. For decades, many people have approached food with guilt, fear, restrictions, rules. But increasingly, health professionals recognize something important. Food enjoyment matters a lot. Because health isn't just about living longer, it's also about living better. Think about the healthiest communities around the world. Meals are often social, relaxed, meaningful, shared. People gather, talk, laugh, connect. And connection itself is linked to well-being. Now imagine two scenarios. In the first, someone follows a perfect diet but feels miserable.
In the second, someone eats a balanced lifestyle that includes occasional comfort foods while maintaining healthy habits overall. Which approach is more sustainable? For most people, the second. And that's where mac and cheese becomes interesting. Not because it's magical, not because it's perfect, but because it reminds us that healthy living doesn't require giving up everything we love. In fact, the next section reveals one of the biggest myths ever created about foods like mac and cheese. And once you hear it, you may never look at comfort food the same way again.
Let's challenge a popular myth. Many people assume all mac and cheese is automatically unhealthy. But is that really true? Consider this. There isn't just one mac and cheese. There are hundreds of versions. Some are heavily processed. Others are homemade. Some contain vegetables. Others contain lean protein. Some use whole grain pasta. Others use traditional pasta. The nutritional profile can vary dramatically. It's similar to saying all sandwiches are unhealthy or all soups are healthy. The reality is more nuanced, and nuance matters.
A homemade version with quality ingredients may look very different from a highly processed version loaded with excess sodium and additives. This doesn't mean every bowl is a health food, but it does mean context matters. And understanding that context empowers better choices. Because the next mistake people make is surprisingly common, and it may be sabotaging the nutritional value of their meal without them even realizing it. The biggest mistake isn't necessarily eating mac and cheese, it's portion size. In today's world, portion sizes have quietly grown larger and larger, and often much larger than people realize.
A serving that once accompanied a meal has sometimes become the entire meal. And that's where problems begin. Because balance disappears. Imagine a plate where mac and cheese shares space with vegetables, lean protein, a side salad, fresh ingredients. Now compare that with a giant, oversized portion eaten alone. Very different picture. Very different nutritional outcome. This is why health experts frequently focus on patterns and proportions rather than individual foods. And in the next chapter, we're going to explore perhaps the most surprising benefit yet: one that involves aging itself. Could certain nutrients found in cheese play a role in healthy aging?
The answer might surprise you. What if healthy aging isn't about finding one miracle food, but consistently giving your body the nutrients it needs over decades? When people think about longevity, they often focus on cutting things out. Less sugar, less processed food, less excess calories. And while those things matter, there's another side of the equation. What are you putting back in? Many foods used in traditional mac and cheese contain nutrients that support healthy aging. Protein helps support muscle maintenance. Calcium contributes to bone health. Vitamin B12 supports normal nervous system function. Phosphorus helps maintain healthy bones and teeth. None of these nutrients can stop aging. Nothing can. But they can support the systems that help us stay active, independent, and engaged as we grow older. And perhaps that's a better goal. Not avoiding age, but aging well. Imagine reaching your 70s or 80s and still having the strength to travel, play with grandchildren, garden, walk confidently, and enjoy life. That vision isn't built in a week. It's built through thousands of daily choices, and every meal becomes part of that story. But longevity isn't only about years. It's also about maintaining a healthy body composition, which brings us to one of the most misunderstood topics in nutrition: weight management. Here's a question. Have you ever eaten a meal that left you hungry again just 30 minutes later? Many people have. And that constant hunger can make healthy eating feel impossible. This is where satiety becomes important. Satiety is the feeling of fullness and satisfaction after eating. Foods that contain protein and fat often help people feel more satisfied than foods consisting mostly of refined carbohydrates alone. That's one reason cheese has remained a staple food for generations. It contributes flavor, richness, and satisfaction. Now let's be clear. Eating unlimited amounts of mac and cheese is not a weight loss strategy. But neither is constantly feeling deprived. Research consistently shows that sustainable habits outperform extreme diets. The people who succeed long-term often find ways to enjoy their favorite foods while maintaining overall balance. And that may be one of the most valuable lessons in modern nutrition. Because success isn't about being perfect, it's about being consistent. But what happens while you're sleeping? That's where another surprising connection appears. Most people don't associate mac and cheese with sleep, but some of the nutrients found in dairy products have been studied for their role in normal bodily functions connected to rest and recovery. Think about what happens during sleep. Your body repairs tissues. Your brain processes information. Your immune system performs important work. Sleep is one of the most powerful health tools we have. And nutrition plays a role in supporting healthy sleep habits. Of course, no bowl of mac and cheese can cure insomnia. But balanced evening meals that are satisfying and not excessively large may help people avoid late-night snacking or hunger. And that's important, because quality sleep influences nearly every aspect of health: energy, mood, focus, recovery, even healthy aging. Which leads us to something many viewers are especially interested in: skin health. And the answer may not be what social media tells you. Social media often promises perfect skin from a single food, a single supplement, a single secret. But real skin health is usually much less dramatic and much more practical. Healthy skin depends on many factors: hydration, sleep, stress management, sun protection, physical activity, and overall nutrition. Protein is one of the building blocks your body uses throughout the body, including tissues related to skin structure. And balanced nutrition helps support overall wellness from the inside out. The truth is, there is no magic skin food. But there are healthy patterns.
And those patterns often involve enjoying real foods in moderation rather than chasing endless trends. Yet, despite all these potential benefits, many people still make one critical mistake when preparing mac and cheese, and it can completely change the nutritional quality of the meal. The second major mistake is what gets added to the dish. Sometimes the problem isn't the pasta, and it isn't the cheese. It's everything surrounding them. Excess sodium, excessive processed ingredients, massive amounts of added fats, gigantic serving sizes. These additions can quickly transform a balanced comfort food into something much less nutritious. But here's the good news. Small adjustments can make a meaningful difference. Adding vegetables, including lean protein, using reasonable portions, choosing quality ingredients. Simple changes, big impact. And in the next chapter, we're going to reveal some of the smartest ways to upgrade mac and cheese without sacrificing the flavor people love. You'll also hear several real-life stories from individuals who changed their eating habits, not through restriction, but through smarter choices. And one of those stories may sound surprisingly familiar. Let's step away from the science for a moment and talk about something even more important. Real life. Meet Michael, a fictionalized example based on common experiences reported by many adults. At 52 years old, Michael felt trapped in an endless cycle. He would start a strict diet, eliminate all his favorite foods, feel motivated for a few weeks,
Then eventually give up. Not because he lacked discipline, but because he felt deprived. Every meal felt like punishment. Every craving felt like failure. Then something changed. Instead of banning comfort foods completely, he learned moderation. He started building balanced meals. Sometimes that included a sensible serving of mac and cheese, alongside vegetables, lean protein, and healthier lifestyle habits. The surprising result? He felt more consistent, more satisfied, and less likely to overeat later. The lesson wasn't that mac and cheese transformed his health. The lesson was sustainability.
because the healthiest lifestyle is often the one you can actually maintain. And that's a lesson many people spend years trying to learn. But Michael's story isn't the only one, because the next story reveals an emotional truth about food that rarely gets discussed. For Sarah, mac and cheese wasn't just food, it was a memory. Every Sunday afternoon, her grandmother made the same recipe. The smell filled the house. Family gathered around the table, stories were shared, laughter echoed through the room. Years later, after her grandmother passed away, Sarah found herself making that same recipe. Not because she was hungry, but because it reminded her of love.
And that's something nutrition labels can never measure. Food carries memories, traditions, relationships, moments that shape our lives. When health experts talk about wellness today, many acknowledge that emotional well-being matters too. Connection matters. Community matters. Joy matters. Because a healthy life isn't just about adding years to life. It's about adding life to years. But now let's tackle one of the biggest myths surrounding mac and cheese. And what we're about to reveal surprises many people. One of the most persistent myths is this: pasta makes you gain weight. But reality is more complicated. Weight gain occurs when energy intake consistently exceeds energy expenditure over time. No single food is solely responsible. Portions matter. Activity matters. Overall diet matters. Lifestyle matters. In fact, some of the world's longest living populations have historically included carbohydrate-rich foods as part of balanced eating patterns. The key isn't fear. The key is balance. When pasta becomes part of a meal that includes vegetables, protein, and sensible portions, the story changes dramatically. Nutrition is rarely black and white. And that's exactly why understanding context is so important. But if you want to maximize the nutritional value of mac and cheese, There are several simple upgrades that can make a surprisingly big difference. Imagine transforming a simple comfort food into a more balanced meal in just minutes. Here are some of the best additions. Broccoli, perhaps the most famous pairing. It adds fiber, texture, and nutrients. Peas, easy, affordable, colorful. Grilled chicken, a great source of protein. Beans, another excellent option for added protein and fiber. Spinach, quick to prepare and easy to incorporate. Even roasted vegetables can completely change the nutritional profile of the dish. The goal isn't to hide the mac and cheese, it's to build around it. Think of it like creating a team. Each ingredient contributes something valuable, and together they create a stronger meal. But timing matters too. So when is the best time to enjoy mac and cheese? The answer may surprise you. Many people ask, what's the perfect time to eat it? The truth? There isn't one universal answer. The best time is the time that fits your lifestyle and overall nutritional needs. Some people enjoy it like part of lunch, others prefer it for dinner. What matters more than timing is context. What else are you eating that day? How active are you? What are your overall health goals? The bigger picture always matters more than a single meal. And perhaps that's one of the most important messages in nutrition. Health isn't determined by one breakfast, one lunch, or one dinner. It's shaped by patterns repeated over time. And speaking of patterns, there's one final lesson that may be the most powerful of all.
For years, many people believed health required perfection. Perfect diets, perfect meals, perfect discipline. But increasingly, experts are discovering something different. Long-term success often comes from flexibility, balance, consistency, and enjoyment. Because the healthiest lifestyle is not the one that looks best on paper. It's the one you can sustain for years, maybe even decades. And that realization changes everything. But before we finish, there's one final chapter. A chapter about longevity, gratitude, and the relationship between food and a life well lived. After everything we've explored today, the history, the nutrition, the myths, the science, and the stories, you may have realized something surprising. This video was never really about mac and cheese. Not entirely. It's about how we think about food. For years, many people have been trapped in an exhausting cycle. One week, a food is called healthy. The next week, it's labeled unhealthy. One expert says eat it. Another says avoid it. And somewhere in the middle, millions of people become confused. But perhaps the real answer is simpler. Most foods are not heroes. Most foods are not villains. They're simply tools. Tools that can fit into a larger picture, a larger lifestyle, a larger journey. And when we stop viewing food through the lens of fear, something remarkable happens. We begin making choices from a place of understanding. Not guilt, not anxiety, not perfectionism. Understanding. Because health is not built by one meal. It's built by thousands of meals, thousands of walks, thousands of nights of sleep, thousands of small decisions repeated over years. And that perspective changes everything. Imagine yourself 20 years from now, maybe 30. What kind of life do you hope to be living? Do you see yourself traveling, playing with grandchildren, walking without assistance, enjoying hobbies you love, sharing meals with people who matter?
Most people don't dream about living longer simply for the sake of numbers. They dream about living well. And that's what longevity is truly about. Not adding years to life, but adding life to years. The foods we choose today become part of that future. Not because any single food creates longevity, but because every choice contributes to a pattern.
and patterns become lifestyles. Lifestyles become habits, and habits become our future. That's why balance matters. That's why consistency matters. That's why enjoying food matters. Because a healthy life should feel sustainable, not restrictive, not miserable, sustainable.
And perhaps that's the greatest lesson a humble bowl of mac and cheese can teach us.
Tonight, before you go to sleep, think about something. Think about the meals you remember most. Chances are, they weren't memorable because of calorie counts, or nutrition labels, or social media trends. They were memorable because of the people, the conversations, the laughter, the celebrations, the comfort, the connection. Food has always been more than fuel. It tells stories. It preserves traditions. It brings people together. And perhaps that's one reason comfort foods remain so powerful. Not because they're perfect, but because they're human. And when enjoyed as part of a balanced lifestyle, they can remind us of something we often forget.
Health is not only about the body. It's also about the life that body allows us to live, the people we love, the experiences we share, and the memories we create along the way. So the next time you see a bowl of mac and cheese, don't just see pasta and cheese. See the history, the nutrition, the science, the memories, the lessons, and the reminder that health is rarely about extremes. It's about balance. It's about consistency. It's about making choices that support both your body and your happiness. If you found this video valuable, tell us in the comments, what comfort food brings back your favorite memories? We'd love to hear your story.
And if you enjoy evidence-based wellness content, healthy aging insights, nutrition facts, and longevity-focused education, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Because every week, we explore fascinating health topics that can help you live a stronger, healthier, and more fulfilling life. Until next time, take care of your body. Protect your health. Cherish your loved ones. And remember, the journey to wellness isn't about being perfect. It's about becoming a little better, one day at a time. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.